Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Memphis and Me, a novel by Diane Moody, narrated by Tiffany Morgan. Prologue. August 16th, 1977. Memphis, Tennessee. Ask anyone who was there that day, and they'll tell you. The air literally crackled with electricity, as if a nearby transformer had blown and all of us could feel the hairs lift off our arms, our necks. The Union Avenue lobby of the hospital quickly filled as employees rushed to see for themselves, their questions hushed but urgent. Is it true? Please tell me it's not true. Surely it's just a rumor. Elvis Presley, our Elvis, dead? Word had spread like a Tennessee wildfire throughout the hospital. An ambulance carrying the king of rock and roll was racing through the streets of Memphis from Graceland to his hospital, flanked by police cars and motorcycle cops. Elvis, dead? How can that be? I spotted Sandra immediately and rushed to her side. She grabbed my hand in a deathlock grip. We held our ground there by that expansive wall of windows overlooking the emergency room bay. I couldn't breathe, and except for an occasional whisper or whimper, no one else seemed to be breathing either. Doctors, nurses, bookkeepers, administrators, gift shop clerks, cafeteria workers, visitors, even a patient or two, some in wheelchairs pushed by family members, and most of my own coworkers. We all stood there, waiting, hoping, praying. We were Baptist Memorial Hospital, Elvis's hospital. No, he didn't own our wonderful institution, though he probably could have. But we were so used to his visits, with his entourage taking over part of 16 on the Union Wing, we always loved when he came to stay, sometimes for a week or 2 or 3 at a time. No one had to announce his arrival. Then, like now, the electricity surged through every corridor on every floor. Elvis is here. The king is in the house. Only, this time, as we waited for him to arrive, we were shrouded in silent grief, fearing the worst. Don't ask me why, but just then I looked up at the clock on the wall, 2:56. Then, flashing lights suddenly rounded the corner as a long line of emergency vehicles made the final stretch to the ER entry. As the ambulance rolled into sight, I felt a tear slip down my cheek, then another. I felt Sandra's arm slip around my waist, pulling me closer. I felt someone else's arm drape over my shoulder. In moments, the girls were all around us, drawing closer as the crowd behind us pushed for a better view. I could hear Sandra's whispered prayers in her native tongue, and then I caught a whiff of Mrs. Baker's familiar cologne and heard her utter, "Oh, dear Lord." I knew it wasn't possible, but at that precise moment, the whole scene seemed to slip into slow motion. The incessant flash of cameras created a surreal landscape of strange, strobe-like movements as people rushed across the lawn below us toward the ER. The barrage of flashing red lights bounced off the medical building walls as the wailing sirens echoed in that valley of concrete and glass. And then the sirens went silent, all of them, leaving an eerie, foreboding hush in their wake. Oh, God, please don't let Elvis die. Present day. Whoa, that must have been bizarre, the young man said, his eyes glazed as if he too was lost in the same memory. I blinked out of that long-ago scene, surprised by the sound of his voice. I cleared my throat, reaching for my cup of hot tea. Yes, well, it was a moment I'll never forget. He reached for his bottled water. I can't even imagine. I crossed my legs, settling back against the throw pillow on my chintz-covered sofa. The early morning sun filtered through the plantation shutters, drawing a series of lines across the hardwood floor in my sunroom. He'd arrived shortly after 7:30, coming straight from the airport, but I'd been up for hours. Now, Mr. Carruthers, please call me Chip, I insist. Chip, then, Tell me again, why is it you need to know all this? Why would the memories of an almost 60-year-old woman be of interest to you? As I mentioned on the phone, I've recently been hired by South Palms Hospital in Pasadena, California, as a public relations consultant for the hospital. I've been asked to find some new and innovative programs for our hospital. As I told you, I have family ties here in Memphis, and I remembered hearing about this patient representative program, your hostess program, when one of my uncles worked at Baptist. He was an obstetrician back in the day and always talked so highly of this program. I know it's no longer a part of the hospital, but I wanted to learn more about it with the intent of putting together a similar program for South Palms. Did you know the original hospital structure is no longer standing? Yes, ma'am. They raised it several years ago, according to my research. I cried that day. We all did. It was like losing an old friend, watching that magnificent building go down into a heap of dust. I watched the video of the demolition online. Did you now? I mused, imagining such a thing like watching a reel of special effects in a Spielberg movie. He had no idea what I'd experienced that day, hearing the roar of the blast, the great cloud of dust filling the air, and then quiet, somber silence when it was over. I looked up at him, a nice young man, 30 or so, well-groomed, polite, attentive, and hanging on my every word. And how did you get my name? My uncle is no longer living, but my aunt remembered you from her church. Dorothy Carruthers, do you remember her? Oh, of course. She used to sing in the choir. Soprano, as I recall. Beautiful voice. We worked in the nursery together on occasion. Is she still living? Yes, though she's in a retirement facility in Germantown now. She isn't able to get to church anymore, but she's sharp as a tack, which is how she remembered your name after all these years. My goodness, it has been a long time. What, 30, 35 years? A long time, he echoed. A long time indeed. More than likely he hadn't even been born yet. All right, so what exactly do you need to know? I'm interested in the program, what you did, your responsibilities as a hostess/patient representative, even the minutest detail, everything. But I must say, after hearing what you just shared with me about the day Elvis died, I'd love to hear all your memories, even those that might not specifically relate to your job. In other words, tell me everything. Tell me what it was like to be a part of that great hospital. I set my teacup and saucer back on the coffee table, then took a deep breath and closed my eyes. What was it like? Well, I suppose the best place to start is at the very beginning. I paused, resting against the needlepoint pillows again as my mind drifted back to long-forgotten memories. I can still smell the new upholstery in my brand-new Cadillac Seville, a graduation gift from Daddy. Midnight blue, with a tan landau roof, tan leather seats fully loaded, and Rick Dees on the radio that bright April morning. Chapter 1. April 5th, 1977. The wild antics of the radio DJ made me smile as I took a left onto Poplar Avenue and started my first official commute downtown. I'd just moved into town over the weekend after landing my new job at Baptist Memorial Hospital. I was born here in Memphis, but hadn't lived here since I was 10. Strange how much you don't remember about a place you lived that long. Then again, I hadn't even hit puberty when we moved. When Dad was offered the Cadillac dealership in Birmingham, off we went. Roll, Tide, roll. So, even though I'd written Memphis as my birthplace on hundreds of documents and forms over my 23 years, I really didn't remember much of anything about this sprawling, eclectic town on the banks of the Mississippi. Still, I was excited to be back. After all, my name is Shelby, as in Shelby County, Tennessee, home to Memphis. Okay, wait, You should probably know my name isn't really Shelby. It's just what everyone calls me. My given name is Race, Rayce, Catherine Colter. Hence the need for a nickname. I mean, we lived in the deep South, and my parents named me Race. To this day, they swear the race-related similarity never crossed their minds, what with the unique spelling and all. But after a handful of unexpected encounters with my black kindergarten teacher, parents of my classmates, and even the nurse at our pediatrician's office, Mom started calling me Shelby, and it stuck. Dad preferred RC, my initials, which led to no end of taunting from my big brother Jimmy, but I'll save those lovely tales for later. I'd graduated from Samford University back in June of the previous year, but hadn't found my dream job yet. Not that I have anything against Taco Barn or the photo desk at Walgreens, but I had this crazy notion that a college education would open doors for more than fast food or drugstore establishments. My sociology degree had sufficiently equipped me with plenty of analytical reasoning for the socioeconomic dynamics thriving in 1976, and yet the kind of job I yearned for had eluded me much longer than I'd hoped. That was until I made a trip up to Memphis to visit my former roommate from college. Rachel had married the summer before our senior year, then moved to Memphis after we all graduated. Her husband, Rich, had been accepted into the UT dental school here, and Rachel quickly secured a job at Baptist Hospital in the heart of the medical community near downtown Memphis. She was an accounting whiz, and apparently the world's largest private hospital needed lots of help with all those numbers. Anyway, she loved her job and loved working at this renowned private hospital. I'm sure you can see where this is going. But let me back up and tell you the rest of my story. Rachel may have had ulterior motives that weekend she invited me to come up and visit, but the real reason I made the trek to West Tennessee that second week of March had nothing to do with employment. Rachel, I have to get out of here. I can't handle this right now. Is it your mom? Your dad? Who's giving you trouble, Shelby? No, they're fine. They're actually relieved I had a change of heart before the invitations went out. I mean, they dished out a boatload of money for everything, and naturally we can't get refunds on most of it, but they're being so great about the financial stuff. I mean, they never really liked Will. Oh, sure they did. No, Rachel, they pretended to like him because they didn't want to disappoint me. Rachel was silent. Even without seeing her, I knew she was twirling a strand of her long blonde hair, blue eyes staring off into space as she mulled over the entire doomed relationship in her mind. Could have fooled me. Yeah, well, they didn't fool me, and in my heart of hearts, I knew all their concerns were valid. While I found the whole notion of being a Navy wife extremely romantic, they knew I'd be miserable on my own in San Diego, so far from everyone I know and love. Seems like I brought that up a time or two myself. That and the fact he had no interest in sharing your faith. I know. But no, it's not Mom and Dad. It's me. It's Birmingham. It's driving by the church where we were supposed to get married. It's having to explain 1,000 times a day why I'm not getting married. I'm so sorry, Shelby. Hey, come see me. Throw your stuff in a bag, get in your car, and come stay with me for a few days. Rich is leaving for a seminar in Knoxville. He'll be gone for a week. It'll be great. I can take a few days off. We can talk. We can shop. We can get manicures. Come on, say you'll come. And so it was. I headed to Memphis for a visit with my sweet friend, and we did, in fact, talk and shop and get manicures. We even shopped for some baby clothes, a first for me. Rachel was 5 months pregnant at that point with Cooper Christopher Bauer. She was the cutest pregnant thing you ever saw. Thankfully, she was past the morning sickness stage and positively glowing. I had to admit I was ready to begin a new life. I fell in love with Memphis, and Rachel helped me get an interview to work at Baptist where she worked. No, not in the accounting department. I'm horrible with numbers. Rachel told me about a unique program at Baptist. Turns out the hospital president, Dr. William Grieve, had pioneered the program patterned after that of stewardesses. Apparently, the highly esteemed Dr. Grieve loved to fly, and he especially loved those classy young women who waited on him on board. Now, I mean that in the good sense of the word. He was a true Southern gentleman who loved the Lord. It would never have crossed his mind to view these young women with anything but pure respect. He appreciated their professionalism, their attention to detail, their friendly manners, and their genuine desire to help everyone aboard feel relaxed and comfortable, even if flight conditions deteriorated or became perilous. I'm told Dr. Grieve returned from a trip to New York City with the idea for a cutting-edge hospital program that would be yet another revolutionary concept in hospital care. He dubbed it the hostess program, though they would later be called patient representatives. I suppose that sounded more professional and less like a hospital version of Welcome Wagon. These young women would be carefully selected from good families with good reputations. A college degree was mandatory. They would be a part of the chaplain department, and as such, each hostess was required to be a member in good standing at a local Southern Baptist church. They would be provided uniforms, much like those the stewardesses wore, impeccable suits designed to set them apart from other hospital employees. Each hostess would be assigned a floor of the hospital and be responsible for visiting all of her patients every day, offering a warm smile, an outstretched hand, and an offer to run errands or to simply be a listening ear. If the patient was so inclined, she would gladly pray for them. It seemed like a dream job, and I couldn't wait for the interview Rachel set up for me. I met with Virginia Baker, the head of the hostess department, and by the end of our meeting, she offered me the job. I'm sure the fact that Rachel and Rich were members of the church where her husband served on staff might have influenced her decision to hire me, but I like to think it was an answer to prayer. A flutter of butterflies drifted through my stomach as I drove closer to the hospital. I uttered a brief prayer for a sense of calm on this, my first day. Then that funny DJ on the radio caught my attention again. Rick D's in the AM. It was a jingle I'd grown fond of, even in the few short days I'd been in Memphis. Dees was a local disc jockey who possessed a truly bizarre sense of humor. He made me laugh out loud, something I'd forgotten to do the last few months. His silly parodies and wild impersonations always put a smile on my face, perfect for a morning like this. Good morning. It's 10 before 8 on this beautiful spring day here in the home of the blues. Wait, what's this I hear? Who's that knocking at the door? A door squeaked open. Hello, Dees mimicked in his Elvis mode. Rick responded, Why, looky here, it's the Biggie himself. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome my good friend, the King, Elvis Presley. Raucous canned applause filled the radio waves. Why, thank you, thank you very much. I just stopped by for a jelly donut and a guitar string. You happen to have those here, ricka-ricka-ricka-dees? It seems dear Elvis felt the need to launch into song with every sentence. I couldn't help laughing. No, sir, Biggie, I don't. You and me, Elvis, we're like burgers and fries, milk and cookies, pork rinds and Cheez-Its, know what I mean? We're tight. If I had 'em, they'd be yours. But no can do this morning, Biggie. No donuts, no strings. The sound of a door slamming broke a brief silence. The King had evidently left the building. See? Rick continued. We're tight, like brothers. So, while Elvis goes and hunts him some jelly donuts, let's play us a little less conversation. Sorry, Rick, I said out loud, but I can't handle any Elvis today. I switched the station, finding some Crosby, Stills, and Nash singing Just a Song Before I Go. Much better. You'd think as a native Memphis belle, I'd love Elvis. I don't know why, but he just never did much for me. Granted, his music was a little before my time. I was born in 1953. By the time I was a teenager and started listening to music, he was already 30 years old. Old! My mother played his songs day and night, but I was much more interested in the Beatles, the Herman's Hermits, and Paul Revere and the Raiders. That and the whole Cadillac thing. I mentioned my dad was a Cadillac dealer. Before he got his first dealership in Birmingham, he worked at Brentwood Cadillac in Memphis. I was much too young to know it at the time, but the story goes that a young, relatively unknown Elvis strolled into the showroom one day and wanted to know about one of the convertibles on the floor. The salesman thought he was just a hood, so basically ignored his questions and refused to let him test drive the DeVille. Dad saw what was happening and made sure he picked up the slack of his stupid colleague. He had no idea who the kid with the jet black hair was, but he knew a customer when he saw one. Elvis bought 12 Cadillacs that day, and Dad became his go-to guy for all his caddies. And oh, how Elvis loved buying Cadillacs. The longer, the flashier, the better. And even though Dad was known throughout Memphis for being Elvis's Cadillac connection, I still didn't get what all the fuss was about Elvis. Maybe I was just too young. Crosby, Stills, and Nash finished their beautiful harmonies just as I pulled into the gated parking lot in the shadow of Baptist Memorial Hospital, the largest private hospital in the world. BMH stood as a proud landmark, its massive stone butterfly shape spanning from Madison Avenue to Union in Midtown Memphis. I took one last look in the rearview mirror, making sure I looked okay. I was pleased to see my hair shine in the morning sunlight, always a good thing for a brunette. The emerald blouse I'd chosen to wear seemed to really bring out the green in my hazel eyes today. Even my mascara looked good for a change, always a challenge for me. I dashed another swipe of gloss on my lips, grabbed my purse, and stepped out of the car. I was proud to make that walk from the parking lot to my new place of employment, and proud to finally put some of my training to work. As I entered the building from Union Avenue, I tried once again to steel my nerves. I loved knowing I was going to be a part of this great institution and one of its nearly 5,000 employees. My first real grown-up job. Time to do this. Chapter 2. I made my way to the hostess office on the first floor of the Madison wing. Mrs. Baker was seated at her desk in the small outer office. "Welcome, Shelby. How nice to see you again. Are you excited?" She stood up, extending her hand to me. I shook it firmly, as Daddy had always taught me to do. "I sure am. A little nervous, but very excited. Thank you so much for hiring me, Mrs. Baker." "My pleasure. Now, come on back and let me introduce you to the other girls. You'll be heading to orientation this afternoon, but I want you to get your feet wet this morning." Feet wet? Whoa, I thought I'd have more time to learn the ropes. "Girls, I want to introduce you to our newest hostess. This is Shelby Colter. Shelby's a graduate of Samford University, raised in Birmingham, but she was born right here in Memphis. You girls introduce yourselves and make her welcome. Shelby, after you say hello, you and I will go have coffee and chat for a while." "Sounds good. Thanks, Mrs. Baker." "Girls, be nice to her." With that, she sashayed back to her desk. I couldn't believe how small the back room was. How on earth could it accommodate a dozen hostesses? 2 vinyl sofas lined the walls with a corner-end table between them. The girls were crammed onto the sofas, on the arms of the sofas, on the floor, with several of them standing in front of a full-length mirror putting final touches on their makeup. "Hi, Shelby. I'm Sarah Beth McCracken. I've been here the longest, so I'll introduce everyone." Sometimes you can size up a person in the first few seconds you meet them. I had Sarah Beth pegged before the first introduction was made. Type A personality, self-appointed queen of the hostesses, brunette, attractive in a business sort of way, perfectly groomed right down to her polished nails and immaculately coiffed hair, not a hair out of place. She went around the room, telling me names I knew I'd forget, along with their assigned floors. Deborah, who had maybe the bluest eyes I'd ever seen, worked the urology floor. Or the waterworks floor, as we like to call it, she said with a friendly wink. Hi, Shelby. Deborah, blue eyes, ash blonde, friendly. I said to myself, trying to make mental notes. Mindy worked the obstetrics floor. That's on 5. I'm also in charge of the newborn pictures, so I have my own office up there in the prayer room. She leaned closer to me. It's also where we hang out when we need a break from Mrs. B. Come on up any time. Her eyebrows danced along with her smile. Mindy, long blonde hair, tall and slender, confident, obstetrics. How would I ever remember all their names? Layla works the pediatric floor, Sarah Beth continued, but you won't see much of her. They keep her running. Layla gave me a quick wave as she rounded the corner. Nice to meet you. We'll talk later, okay? Gotta run. Layla, another short one, sable brown, chin-length hair, pediatrics, cute girl. Chelsea works on 12 with our neuro patients, but don't assume that makes her any smarter than the rest of us, Sarah Beth quipped. Chelsea smiled. Ah, but I am. It's all that extra brain fluid flowing up there. Sticky stuff, but it does tend to make you smart. Gross, one of the girls said. Did you have to say that? I'm eating my yogurt here. And on it went. 2 of the girls weren't in the office, already up on their floors. Another was homesick. 12 hostesses in all beautiful and dressed in gorgeous rust-colored suits. I noticed they all wore hose and heels. It had been a long time since I'd stepped into anything but running shoes, but I'd adjust. Their pinstriped blouses had matching ties attached, which were tied in the latest style to form a classic bow at the neck. Just then, a door in the corner of the office opened. Out walked a drop-dead gorgeous brunette from the small restroom. I wasn't sure how she'd kept a tan like that this early in spring, but I was sure it was from some recent tropical vacation and not a bottle of Coppertone. Her blue eyes sparkled beneath thick black lashes, her smile radiant with the whitest teeth I'd ever seen. Well, hey, you must be Shelby, my replacement. I'm Pamela Smythe. Suddenly, I was engulfed in a hug and dizzy from a cloud of Chanel No. 5. Nice to meet you, Pamela. Babe, you ready? We all turned toward the door, which was now filled by a god. Okay, not a god, but maybe the most handsome man I'd ever seen in person. His white lab coat contrasted with a tan that matched Pamela's exactly. A navy silk tie knotted under his heavily starched blue Oxford cloth shirt. His full name was embroidered on the left pocket. Franklin Warwick, M.D. Oh, hey, honey, I'm ready, but I want you to meet Shelby. She's taken my place up on 9. Shelby, this is Franklin, my fiancé. Thankfully, he didn't try to hug me, though, even a handshake away, I caught a whiff of his Aramis cologne. It made my knees go weak. Shelby, nice to meet you, he said, taking my hand. Pamela peeked at the mirror one more time, touching a manicured pinky to the edge of her lips. Then she turned, placing a hand on my arm. That's when I glimpsed the rock on her finger, a marquise, easily 2 carats. I tried not to let my jaw drop, but I'm fairly sure it did. I'm going to grab a quick bite of breakfast with Franklin, then I'll meet you back here and we'll head up to 9. Cardiology? You'll love it up there. We call it the floor with heart. A round of moans followed her out the door. That's because she hooked that big delicious heartthrob up there, said the short Puerto Rican whose name I recalled was Sandra. They all laughed and made a few playful digs about the striking beauty and her doctor, all in good taste, of course. Shelby? Now it was Mrs. Baker filling the door. Let's go for coffee, shall we? Girls, get up to your floors. Time's a-wasting. We took our seats in the dining room that overlooked Madison Avenue. Linen tablecloths, fine china and silver, a far cry from the usual hospital cafeteria. As if she'd read my mind, Mrs. Baker took a seat and motioned for me to do the same.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?